Hi, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I've entitled Film Adaptations, Love Them or Hate Them. So basically what I thought I'd do is talk about some books that I've read where they've been adapted into films and whether I've enjoyed watching the film as much as I've enjoyed reading the book, or whether the film was better than the book, or but along those kind of lines. So I have 8 books to talk about today, so let's just jump into the video. The first adaptation I'm going to talk about is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I absolutely love Gillian Flynn, and I will probably be making a video soon talking about all of her books because I have read all of them now. I read Gone Girl first, and then a couple of years later I watched the film. This tells the story of a husband and wife, and one day the husband wakes up and the wife has gone missing and he doesn't know where she is, and he calls the police and kind of they suspect him of having done something to her, and then the story unfolds from there. And I'm not going to say anything else because you don't need to know anything else than that if you haven't read this. I saw the film a couple of years ago, and I think it was last year actually. The film is really dark, really gritty. I think it's got an 18 certificate, and with good reason as well, because there are some really quite shocking scenes in it. So you've got Ben Affleck, who plays the main character Nick, and then you've got Rosamund Pike, who plays his wife Amy. I thought Rosamund Pike did a really good job of Amy's character. In fact, in the film she came across as even more twisted than she did in the book. Or perhaps that's because there was a couple of years gap in between me reading the book and watching the film, and I kind of lost that sense of how twisted she was. But I thought she really did a good job of that. I really enjoyed the film. I'd definitely watch it again, and it's definitely an adaptation that I would recommend. The second adaptation that I'm going to talk about is The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. I've read this book a couple of times now, and I'm planning actually on doing a reread of it this year as part of my classics challenge. The adaptation that I'm going to talk about is the most recent one with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think I've seen one of the older versions of it. I can't quote the year, so I'm not even going to bother trying. But this is the one that I've seen a couple of times now. And I thought it was amazing. It was so good. I know it was criticised for example, its soundtrack and maybe kind of the too modern take on it. But I just thought that it was just such a great adaptation. The director was Baz Luhrmann, who directed the Romeo and Juliet adaptation, sort of about 10 years previous to that, and I absolutely loved that adaptation as well. I just thought the parties were brought to life so well, the kind of lavish lifestyle was brought to life so well, the larger than life characters really came across on screen. I really liked the soundtrack actually to it. Yeah, and it's just absolutely fantastic. It kind of brings all of that 1920s glitz and glamour, but also the kind of underlying darkness, I suppose. It really brought that to life really well. So that's a great adaptation. The next one I want to talk about is Private Peaceful by Michael Morpurgo. This is one where I didn't like the film. It wasn't really widely kind of dispersed, is that even a word? I mean, I don't remember it being in the cinema. I picked a copy of it up on DVD because this is a book that I used to teach, and then I wanted to show the film to my students afterwards, and I thought the film was just dreadful. I mean, the book is brilliant. It tells the story of 2 brothers, and you know, World War I is approaching, and it talks about their childhood and about them growing up in a time where war is looming over them. yeah, and I'm not going to say any more than that because I'll spoil it, but it's absolutely fantastic. I just thought the film didn't do it justice whatsoever. It obviously didn't have a particularly big budget because you didn't have any stars in it as far as I remember. Yeah, they played around with the timeline, they played around with, they put in some extra scenes that weren't in here that I just didn't really know why, and I just thought they could have made it a lot more poignant than it was. It just didn't bring across to me the way that this moved me. Yeah, so I really wouldn't recommend watching that. Recommend reading the book, absolutely, not the film. Next up, I've got Slumdog Millionaire by Vikas Swarup, I think you pronounce that. This was originally published as Q&A, and then they changed the title. This is kind of a reprint of the book once they made the film. I'm sure you've all seen Slumdog Millionaire by now. If you haven't, have you been living under a rock? Seriously, it's such a great film. I did something that I don't normally do, where I watched the film first and then I read this afterwards. I think because I didn't realise that this was originally a book. So I read this later, and I really liked the book. It's set out in a bit of a different format from the film. The film kind of goes more in sort of like a chronological order, whereas this, each chapter is a question from the show. So you've got that one, for 1,000 rupees, the death of a hero, and then it tells you, it basically tells you how he knows the answer to that question. So they ask him the question, and then it goes back into his life and talks about how he came to know the answer to that question. Yeah, both the film and the book are really good. I would recommend both of them. Next, I'm going to talk about The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. Susan Hill knows how to tell a good ghost story, and I've read this book several times now. This is one of the books that I've taught to students as well. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the film, because they changed so much of the storyline. I really like the atmospheric element to the film. They really built that up. They set it not too far away from where I live now. So the setting was great, the atmosphere was great. I actually really liked Daniel Radcliffe as Arthur Kipps. But like I said, they played around with the storyline. They totally changed the ending. They added things into the actual story itself that don't appear in here. Obviously to make it a bit more Hollywood, shall we say. But I didn't like that at all. So yeah, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with that one. Next up, I've got The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. I've seen 2 adaptations of this. You've got the original Disney animated version, and then you've got the live action that I think was... Did I go and see that last year? I think I went and saw it last year. I read the book after I saw the live action version of it. I picked up this one, and then there's a second one to this which I haven't read, and that I've got downstairs as well. And I read this afterwards. This is one where I prefer the film, just because I didn't realise that the book is a series of short stories set within the jungle environment. So you see Mowgli and Shere Khan and all of the characters that you get to see in the film, but you also get to see other characters in here as well that don't appear in the films at all. So that was it. Yeah, I don't know whether I was just expecting to see something exactly like the Disney version, but alas, that's not what you get in here. I still enjoyed it. It was alright. It was probably a 3-star read for me. You know, it was, yeah. So I definitely prefer the film. I loved the live action version. There were some tweaks from the original Disney one. I mean, the original Disney one is just magical, isn't it? It's just so good. But the live action adaptation was also very good. I've got a review on that on my blog if you want to check that out. I'll link that one down below. So that's that one. Next up, I've got Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I read this last year or the year before, can't remember, and then went to see the film with a friend who'd recommended this book to me in the first place, and we kind of chatted about the book once I'd read it, and yeah, I kind of went running to her and couldn't wait to talk to her about the book once I'd actually read it, and then we went to see the film together afterwards. I know this is a bit of a controversial book on BookTube, and I understand the reasons why for that. To me, I don't really get that sort of aspect of it. You know, people talk about the fact that she's using disability as a plot device, and I don't think that's what she's doing in here. That's just my opinion. I just think it's a really sort of a feel-good story, but also, you know, it's a story to make you think. It's a story to open your eyes a little bit more to bits of the world and bits of our society that we don't always think about. And I love the main character. You know, she's got so much spark and so much personality, and it's absolutely great. And I love the film as well. The film made me cry in so many places. So that was a definite running mascara moment. But yeah, I really like this. I've got the sequel, After You, on my shelf, but I haven't got around to it yet. And she recently announced that there's going to be a third book, so this is going to be a trilogy, which I was quite intrigued by. But yeah, there's that one. And then the last bit that I'm going to talk about is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I absolutely love this book. I'm sure you've read it before, but if you haven't, then this tells the story of a family who live in the deep south of America, and it's told from the point of view of a little girl called Scout, and about her growing up with her brother Jem. Her father is a lawyer and takes on the case of a black man who has been accused of raping a white woman, and sort of it's about racism in the deep south, and you get, because you're seeing it through Scout's perspective, you're seeing things through her innocent eyes, and therefore you're seeing a new generation grow up and look at the world a little bit differently from the older generation. The Gregory Peck film adaptation is equally as good. It's black and white. Obviously they haven't remade this since, and don't really see how you can, because that adaptation is just so good. Gregory Peck as Atticus Finch is really good. I love him as an actor. He plays Atticus really well. Scout's character is played really well in this as well, and it's really true to the story, the adaptation, and it really brings Harper Lee's story to life. I'm a bit scared of reading Go Set a Watchman. I do have it on my shelf. My husband's read it, because I've heard that it kind of taints your view of Atticus and of the family. So I'm a bit kind of unsure about reading that. If you've read it, I'd love to know your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments below. But that's another great adaptation. So there you go, they were all the book to film adaptations that I wanted to talk about today. Have you got any good book to film adaptation recommendations that I should read / watch? Have you read / watched any of these? I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.